Hey everyone, this is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Petters with your Florence update. Obviously, the track continues to trend west and southwest just a hair, which if you remember early in the week, that was the one thing we didn't want to happen. So the threat for the East Coast certainly is increasing, but the good news is, if there is good news in a situation like this, there's still plenty of time to prepare. But let's focus first on what's going on and what we know right now and what we don't know. This is the 11 a.m. advisory. The storm is actually weakened even more overnight, so that's kind of deceiving, and I don't want people to let their guard down. This storm is not going to be very strong for the next day, day and a half. It's likely just going to be a tropical storm out there, but it is going to intensify rapidly, maybe even by Monday, Tuesday into Wednesday as it moves over the warmest waters off the east coast of the United States. It could be a category 4 here on Wednesday morning. So you could see there's still time to prepare along the coast. This isn't going to happen over the weekend. This is going to be late next week. So you can see by maybe as late as maybe Thursday morning or as early as Thursday morning into Friday, somewhere along the coast. But remember what these cones mean. The storm could still be here, but it also could still be down here. So that's why I think, basically from Georgia up to Maine still needs to be watching this system very carefully. Let me show you the guidance because this is the key part of this. This is the spaghetti plots, which you see me show very often on the air and right here. This is the forecast track. Notice how it's right down the middle of most of the guidance. Now we get to day 6, 7, 8, 9. This is where things get interesting. There's obviously some impacting the coast of the Carolinas, but there's still a whole bunch that are offshore. Now, we expect a recurvature here. Whether that recurvature happens there, or happens down here is still yet to be determined. So there's still uncertainty in this. It's just that the cone or the window of where we think this could go is narrowing slightly. So the potential for an impact, especially if I was in the Outer Banks in particular, I would start putting my plan together now. In fact, I think everybody should start putting their plan together. For this reason, you could see I have my ready, set, go map here for next week. Basically from Long Island, New York down to, Georgia, I would start getting my ready, set plan together. And you're probably wondering, Brad, what's the ready, set plan mean? Well, let me show you. So my ready, set, go plan is we are now 5 to 7 days plus from possible impacts. That means build and store a hurricane kit for you and your family. Think about your hurricane plan for later. So we're in the planning stages right now. Now, if we do get into the cone, that means the forecast cone, we're going to move into this range right here, which is this set, which means you're in the cone, activate your hurricane plan, and prepare property for the storm, evacuate if you're told by local officials. Then once we get 1 to 3 days out, which is still way down the road, that means you're going to be under some kind of hurricane watch or warning. That means you need to start activating your plans and actually go and do them. So leave for higher ground, go inland if you're along the coast. If you're inland, shelter in a safe location, prepare for wind and possible inland flooding, and plan for services for days. For days, you could be without power, electricity, all that stuff for days. So I'll post this on my page as well. You don't need to read it right now, but just to let you know what's going to be happening. So let's get into some of the meteorology of what's going on here. You can see the system, it's still very well organized circulation, even though it's being sheared to shreds. I mean, this is the thing that is, to me, a little bit shocking is how strong the storm has been able to maintain its inner core in the face of what has been incredibly strong shear. And that's why the rapid intensification is likely, because if it's maintaining this circulation, even though it's getting blasted by southwest shear and dry air is wrapping around, can you imagine what this storm is going to do once it gets into a low shear, high water temperature area just to its west? That's what the concern is as we go through the weekend and into early next week. So let me show you the water vapor loop because this is really telling. Couple things that are interesting to me about the steering here and why I'm not going to profess that I'm certain where this is going to go still yet. Nobody can, but it's a close enough threat to the U.S. that we got to start taking it more seriously. Is we've got this what we call a TUTLO. It stands for tropical upper tropospheric trough. It's a mouthful. We call it a TUTLO. It's basically a trough of low pressure. This is interesting because this is kind of blowing up this afternoon or this morning with convection here. And two things. Does this have an impact on the steering? But maybe more concerning is, does it have an impact on the strength? Because this is spinning counterclockwise like this. So is this storm. And what happens is this gets closer. This can actually help vent the storm to the north. The thing about tropical systems, they like air going into them, but aloft, they like the air being evacuated or venting. Think of it as a fire. A fire needs an exhaust system to burn really intensely. Well, this can provide an exhaust system that could cause it to burn or intensify greatly. So if it moves in tandem with this system, Florence, it could actually cause it to be stronger. But it also could cause it to get deflected and move erratically. I think that's why you're seeing all this crazy stuff showing up in the model guidance. You see all these crazy loop-de-loops here. I think you're seeing the influence of that trough and also the big ridge to the north. So let's get into the steering. What could happen or go wrong or go right for us for this to steer out to sea still or make a landfall on the East Coast? Okay, so let's get into the steering or the meteorology of what's going on. What's driving this system right now is going to be this massive ridge of high pressure which is building to the north. High pressure moves counterclockwise in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. So what's happening is this ridge is steering the storm almost due west. But what happens over time is this system kind of meanders down there and eventually another ridge builds on top of it. Now this ridge, you could see it right there. So this is going into Tuesday night. You could see the ridge building above it. This is going to keep it from going north. But remember, this thing spins this direction. So once it gets to the edge, it's going to want to move around it. This is like a big cog or a pinwheel in the atmosphere. The problem is, if this ridge builds back to the west more, then it's going to drive the storm into the coast before it makes that turn. If this high pressure system then is weaker or drifts to the east or builds this way, then it would drive it up to the north and northeast quicker. So those are the kind of things. And then all along, we've got a pretty significant trough out west that might impact it depending on how strong that trough is. And if you can see, this is the European, by the way, it shows that ridge building west a little bit with it, which would drive it into the coast. So that's still the uncertainty that we have in the system. This thing right here, this ridge, is going to be the big X factor in all of this. So that's the thing we're watching going into early next week. So a couple things to note on that. When are we going to know more? Is this going to be a direct impact on Charlotte? Timing, all of that stuff. Very good question. So as far as timing is concerned, this all depends on how strong, how fast, and the location. Obviously, if it heads right towards the coast in here, that could happen as soon as Thursday, maybe Thursday afternoon. If it goes to the north, it would be like Friday, Saturday. If it goes further south, it could be Friday, Saturday. So the timing is really Thursday to Saturday, somewhere in here, depending on the strength. The other thing is impacts in the Charlotte area. I've given a lot of questions about that. It all depends. I mean, if this stays near the coast, it's bad news for the coast, but there would be little to no impacts back here. But if it takes a track further south and west, and for folks in the Western Carolinas, I'm specifically talking to my viewers in Charlotte, upstate, Western North Carolina, even the Piedmont, a track down here puts our area more in play. A track up here, while devastating and horrible for all my followers and friends in Eastern North Carolina, means the western part of the state isn't impacted as much. So I know there's a lot of information here, and this isn't one of those situations where, you know, I can sit here and say, hey, it's coming our way for sure. This isn't what this is. There's no need to freak out and go crazy and that, oh, it's coming our way. It's still early. The reason I'm doing this and the reason I'm posting the things I am now is the threat is increasing. We're still 7 to maybe 9 days away from impact. Maybe I would say 6 to 7 days away from impact in parts of the Carolinas. Could be longer depending on the track. So this isn't like this is like, oh, it's heading your way. It's going to be here Monday. Nope. Monday, by the way, let me show you real quickly. That system would still be way out here. Even on Wednesday morning, it's still out here. So yeah, this is where it will be Wednesday morning. So this is going to be Tuesday, Monday, it's down here. So Wednesday, Thursday, it's in here. Thursday, Friday-ish. So you can see the time frame here as I'm kind of tracking this out. So there's time here. This isn't something to get, you know, crazy about right now. That's why the maps that I showed you earlier, the ready, set, go maps, We're in the ready phase. Trust me, this is a plan. We put it into process, plan, you go ready, set, go. So we're in the ready mode right now. So I'm sure I'll have a billion questions. I'll try to answer as much as possible. Obviously, I will be doing updates throughout the weekend. I'll be on the air Saturday night as well. Don't worry, we've got you covered. But again, going into the weekend, we're in ready mode. So get that hurricane kit together and plan together if you didn't do it at the beginning of the hurricane season. And especially my friends in the Outer Banks, I'm talking directly to you. I would definitely start thinking about what you're going to do because you're so susceptible. It takes a long time to get off those islands. And even a near pass could mean some big time flooding issues out there. Start really considering what you're going to do as we get closer to Monday. No one needs to do anything right now as far as evacuate and all that stuff. It's the planning stages. So start doing it now. Of course, I'll have another update today at 4, 5, and 6 on NBC Charlotte.